Hi there, everyone. Welcome and good morning. Welcome to Melavora's introductory course to open broadcast software, or as we call it, OBS. One of the big things I just quickly want to mention about OBS is that it is free. It's a free open source software. It's completely cross-platform. So if you're a Windows user or an Apple user or even a Linux user, you can actually use OBS. So it makes it a very powerful program. The only thing that I should probably mention about OBS and the fact that it is open source is that it can be temperamental. You'll discover there's some little, it will have some issues, as you're working with it. But overall, one of the really good things about it is that it's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly scalable, and you can scale it to whatever you need. But before we start with OBS, just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Xavier Middleton, and I'm one of the co-owners of Melavora Educational. And our purpose is really to bring new software and new teaching methods to teachers and lecturers, and also to introduce you to software like OBS. Our philosophy is that you don't need to go out there and buy new things. You don't need to buy really expensive software, because there is an open source variety out there. And that's why we do have these training courses, and we do have these webinars and also the workshops. So this one today is going to be a basic introduction to OBS. So we'll be looking at how does OBS work? What does it look like? What is the UI? In other words, what is the user interface? And we're also going to be looking at how to actually install it onto your computer. Now, the assumption that I'm going to make today is that you are a Windows user. And if you're not a Windows user, definitely contact me and we can have a new video or something up where we look at your specific platform as well. All right, so let me quickly just share a screen for you, just to show you. This is our course notes, so just wait for this to come up. Just sharing the screen. All right, so you should be able to see it up. There we go. So this is our basic course notes, and I will make this available to you. I generally will give it to you as a part of the pack. This is just the course notes for the first part of the course. So obviously what you'll need is what I'm adding here is, for instance, you will need a laptop or a computer, obviously, a webcam, a microphone, and obviously the OBS software, and also access to Zoom. Now that's obviously how we're talking and how we're actually doing this course. Generally with courses like these, I try to keep it open, and I do allow for participants to talk and to ask me questions while we're actually doing the course. One of the other things, particularly when we're dealing with software and we're dealing with computers, is that many people have different levels of comfort. You might be a beginner, you might be an advanced user. I generally try to make my courses accessible to everyone. And I also allow people to ask me questions. And one of the philosophies, particularly when I was still teaching computer skills at CPUT, was that no question is silly. No question is too low level. We're here to learn. If something is not clear, please ask, and we can go through it, or it's going to run at your comfort level, I should rather say. So just going through the notes quickly here, our first task is going to be downloading and installing the software. And there's a quick guide for those who would like to go ahead and they can start installing, but I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we're going to go to the OBS software, the OBS website. We're going to download the specific software, and I've also added what you'll generally see, the prompts for the installation process. And then in task 2, we're going to look at OBS. Now you'll notice this is just a general screen that you'll see, and I'm going to show you how that looks like as well. And we're going to go through the UI, the user interface. I'm going to show you what elements to look out for. And then we're going to do a small little practical just to get you started on it, because this is a basic OBS course. For the other follow-up courses, we're going to go into more detailed working on OBS. But for this one, generally what I want you to be able to do is I want you to be able to use the software, and I want you to be able to make a very basic video. All right. Okay, so this is just the notes, and you can definitely have a look at the notes because the notes will be available to you. So for now, let's quickly go to the OBS website. So I'm just going to quickly share screen. So from the note pack, you'll notice there is the URL to take you to the specific website. So I'm just going to show you, this is the website in its entirety. So this is generally what you'll see. So it will tell you OBS Open Broadcaster software, download OBS Studio, and then you'll obviously see the different operating systems. So these are the different platforms that you can install it on. If you're a Linux user, it will definitely run on Linux, on any of the Linux distros, Ubuntu, etc. Or if you're an Apple user, you can also install OBS onto an Apple machine. But for us, we are generally going to work on the Windows platform because most people are familiar with Windows. And if you are in the education sphere, if you're a teacher or if you're a lecturer, you're generally probably going to be using Windows. That seems to be the default for most of us. When you come down here, you'll notice there's actually the installer for the Windows platform. I just quickly want to mention that you just have to take note that OBS Studio supports Windows 8, 8.1, and 10. So if you have an older computer and you're still running Windows XP or you're running Vista, OBS is not going to work for you, or this particular version of OBS is not going to work for you. I have to first check whether or not there's an older version that can run on Vista, but that's obviously something that I'll have to check for you. But for now, please make sure that your computer can run the software. So if it's a Windows 8 machine or a Windows 8.1 machine, or preferably a Windows 10 machine, then this version 26.1.1 of OBS will definitely work on your computer. So to install, you just click on that link. It will download the installer. I'll just quickly stop share on this one and go back to the note pack. Right. So coming back to the note pack. So as it's as you download the installer, this might take a while. It's about 75 megabytes. So depending on your connection speed, this might take up to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Just tell me if it's running slowly. We can wait and we can have a cup of tea or have a cup of coffee, and then you can wait for the installer to actually download. I'm going to assume that everyone has installed it, or actually everyone has downloaded the software and you're ready to install. Just a quick tip, when you do the download, it will ask you where to put it on your computer. If you're not familiar with how or where to put it, one of the tasks, particularly under what we call file management, is to put it in a place where you can find it. And I generally would suggest that to actually to download it to your desktop. So when it's on the desktop, you can then install it from your desktop. Obviously, the general default for your download is going to be into your download folder. But if you're not familiar, you can put it on the desktop. You'll find it on the desktop, and you can double click it, and then it will actually install it. So this is actually the window here that you'll get. You'll see that it will say OBS Studio, the version, and the installer. And here it says, for instance, the path, it says save as. It's going to go to this PC, and it's going to go into the downloads folder, and I can then access it from the downloads folder. Alternatively, you'll also notice that as you download it, you will have a little button in the corner on your browser where the file will actually be active. And once it's downloaded, you can even click on that and the installation process will start. Once the installer is downloaded, you double click on it and you can launch the installer. And this is generally what you'll see. You'll see a welcome screen and it will say, welcome OBS Studio, whatever version you've now downloaded. Just press next, and that will give you a little bit of information about the software. There's actually generally a licensee or a license agreement. You can read through it if you want to, but generally just click next again. Now it's going to ask you, where do you want to save this particular software? The default path, as you'll notice here from our notes, it will say choose where to install the software. The default destination path is generally on your C drive, so that's on the C drive on your computer, in the program files folder, and it will create a new folder called OBS Studio, in which it will actually put the OBS software. You can also have the option to have a link on the desktop, or even within the start menu of Windows as well, so you can always have access to the software as well. If you are comfortable, you can change this. So if you, for instance, have more than one hard drive, or you've partitioned your hard drive and you have a C, an E, or an F drive, you can maybe choose to put it on either of those. I know a lot of people use one of their drives for only system files, then another drive they might use just for documents, and another drive they use for applications. That's if you're an advanced user. But for normal practices, it's okay to save it onto your C drive for now. Right, so this is generally what you'll notice when it says choose the install location. Just press install, and you just wait a little bit, and the software will actually install onto your computer. It takes a few, probably maybe five minutes, and it will install into your computer, depending on your computer, depending on how fast it is, depending on whether or not your computer is new or old. You just have to wait. For that, generally also, if it runs a bit slow for you, we'll have a wait and we can have a cup of tea. That's not a problem, or a cup of coffee, as we wait for everyone to actually install the software. So that is part of task one. And task one is just getting the software onto your computer, making sure that everyone has access to OBS. Our second task is actually running the OBS software. So from the notes, if you notice, you will see that it's got this black screen. And I can actually show you now quickly. Let me just quickly stop share. And then I just want to quickly share screen with my OBS. It's running. So this is OBS, generally what you'll notice. It's a black screen. You'll also notice there are these boxes. You've got a scenes box right here. You've got sources, audio mixer, scene transition, and then also controls. Start streaming, start recording, start virtual camera, studio mode, settings, and etc. And we'll go through all these different varieties in other courses and in later courses as well. And you'll start to appreciate just how unbelievably powerful this software is. I'll just quickly mention the streaming part. Most definitely you can stream using the software. So if you're using a website like, for instance, Twitch, or even on Facebook, or even YouTube, you can stream content directly. So in other words, it's almost like you having a live television broadcast, which you then broadcast out to other people and they can watch your streams. That is obviously dependent on your internet connection and the amount of bandwidth available to you. Currently, if you have a fiber connection, and a fairly robust fiber connection, you can definitely stream, and you can stream your own shows, you can stream your own podcasts, or just to have a nice discussion with friends and you stream it to other people and they can also watch it. But for this version of the course, we are mostly going to think about the recording part, because we're going to be recording a video that we can then maybe later edit and change using other open source software. And those other software we're also going to discuss in a later video as well. So let's just quickly go back to the user interface. So what I want you to take note is obviously there's nothing happening on the screen, it's black. You've got this box scene, the sources, an audio mixer. So what exactly are we going to be doing now? With OBS, you have to add everything that you want to the software. So for instance, if you have a webcam, you have to tell OBS that you want to use that specific webcam. For my setup here with Zoom, I actually have two webcams set up. I've got the webcam set up for Zoom, and I'm now going to use a different webcam to actually use in OBS. One of the funny things with OBS and Zoom, though, is that they don't seem to work well together. So for instance, if Zoom is using your webcam, you won't be able to use it in OBS. And similarly, if OBS is using your webcam, you won't be able to use Zoom. So for instance, if you're in the class now, you can actually disable your camera, and you can make it then available so that OBS can use it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add sources. But before I talk about sources, let's first look at scenes. Well, what exactly is a scene? The scene function is really what it implies. You can have very different scenes and multiple different scenes. And as you're recording, you can swap between them. So for instance, let's say you're giving a lecture. You've got a PowerPoint presentation that you'd like to talk about. You've also got maybe a website that's available that you'd like to talk about. Or alternatively, you've got a video or a short clip that you'd like to show to your students. Those different elements you can actually add into specific scenes, and you can rename them. So you can call them specific things. So for instance, you might say your scene 1 is going to be about PowerPoint. Your scene 2 is going to be about the video, and scene 3 is going to be about the web browser. So we're going to do that quickly as well. So I'm just quickly going to change my scene here. If you right click on it, you'll notice you can add things here. You can rename it. And I'm going to call the first scene, I'm just going to call it my camera. Or rather, let's call it introduction. So I'd like to use this scene as my introduction, or my introductory video. So this is the scene where I'm going to talk to people. When we go to sources, we're now going to add something. We're going to add the camera. For that to happen, I'm going to click on the plus button right at the bottom to add, and you'll notice there's a couple of things that come up. There's audio input, capture, there's audio output, a browser, color, display capture, game capture. If you're a video gamer, you can even capture the feed coming from your video game, and you can add that in. You can even just add an image, a slideshow, etc. So for this one, I'm going to use the video capture device. I'm going to add it. I can change the name, but for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. Now, remember, one of the things is with OBS, I can change that later. I can make it something different if I want to. I'm going to click OK. Now it's going to ask me which camera do I want to use. I'm going to scroll down, and these are the different webcams that I have available. The full HD webcam I'm currently using for Zoom, so I can't use that. So I'm going to use the Logitech webcam. And there we go. So now I've got my face and the green screen behind me ready to be used. And I'm going to click on that, OK. Interestingly, I've got my little box here, and I can manipulate this. So I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, depending on what I want to do with it. So for instance, let's say, for instance, I want to have a nice big screen open, and I want a background in the background. I can do that as well. So let's just see quickly. No, let's first add audio before we do anything else. So you have to add an audio input. Otherwise, if you just add the video and you record, you're not going to have any audio. All you're going to have is you're going to have the video playing, and there's going to be no sound. So you have to do everything incrementally. So you add all your components to OBS. So my audio input I'm going to add that as well. And I'm just going to use my microphone from my USB microphone. Okay, so you'll also notice it's actually now picking it up. So there's audio input capture. It's picking up that it actually reads or it's listening to the device. We've got our video set up. If need be, I can actually add in an image as well. I can browse an image from my computer. Let's go to Middleton Educational. I can add my background. Right? And this I can also manipulate. So I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. So this is obviously a little bit of mouse skills. So if you need to practice that, you can practice. Obviously now I've got a problem because my image is actually in front of my video, and I don't want that. I actually want my video to be right in front. And I can do that quickly as well. So I go to my video capture, and you'll notice that it's right at the bottom. Because it's right at the bottom, that's actually the one that's not going to be showing up. So I actually want to invert this. I want to put the image right at the bottom, and I want to put my video capture right in front. So I can use these buttons here to just move it up. And there we go. One of the things that I'll show you at a later stage is actually how to use the Chroma or the Chroma function or the green screen function. And the green screen function is how you can actually take away the background behind me and then to make it almost as if I'm sitting in front of a studio or a studio background with everything. And I'll quickly just show you, but we'll definitely look at this in a later stage as well and give you some sort of an introduction to that. But I'll just quickly do it. Go to Chroma Key. We're going to use green. Sometimes you just have to play a little bit with the settings. I'm going to make this, I'm not going to make it 100%, but I just quickly want to show you the effect that you can get. So now we have my face right in front of this background. Okay, so I'm actually now talking, and I can have everything behind me. I can talk about, this could be my school's logo. It can be maybe just a pretty picture or whatever. So we've now set up a part of that. Now let's do another scene, and let's say we're going to create a new scene, but we're going to use the browser. So what I can do is I can duplicate it, or I can just add a new one. So what I'm going to do is if I duplicate it, it's going to actually save everything that I've already done. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one browser. Press OK, and there we go. So now I've got these two scenes, and if I click on them right now, nothing is happening because obviously it's the same content that I'm actually just sharing. So for browser, I'm just quickly going to do this one, and I'm going to add in the browser, the window. So I go to window capture, right? Can choose the window, and I am going to look for the one that I want, and I want the Microsoft Edge window. There we go. So I've now added that in. I can even make my little face a little bit smaller, and I can have my browser in that. So for instance, if I was giving a class and I'm talking about something specific, I can then have this up, and I can even manipulate this browser and tell my students about something. Let's say we're Googling about biological functions, and we'd like to look at a YouTube video. We can then do that as well. So let's try another one. This time I'm going to do for a PowerPoint presentation. I do the same thing. I can duplicate it again, or I can create a new one. So this one I'm going to call PowerPoint. I press OK. And then I'm just quickly going to add, actually, I'm going to open up PowerPoint first before I do anything. Just hold on a second. Let me just quickly open up PowerPoint. Okay, and I've got my PowerPoint one or my PowerPoint scene ready. So for this one, I'm just going to remove Windows Capture. I'm going to change Windows Capture. And I'm going to say, well, for this one, please use PowerPoint. And there we go. And obviously this I can also change. I can maybe make it in front. And I'm going to use my video capture. I'm just going to move my face above so that my face is right in front of this. And I'm just going to make this one, oops, put this one into display mode. Right. Let's just close that quickly. I'm going to just quickly set up, and we want to set up browsed by an individual window, and we're just going to let it run. There we go. So we've actually got our notes in the background. So let's say, for instance, I'm giving a lesson on environmental impact assessment or looking at life cycle analysis. I can do that, but I can also swap between these different scenes. That's actually a good point as well. And this is actually something I wanted to mention, is that when you make a change in the sources, you have to be mindful of the fact that it actually captures that right through the different scenes. Right, so in a nutshell, this is what you can do. You can have these different elements, and you can swap between them. You can add video, you can add audio, you can do a lot of things to actually make your videos look incredible. So once you've done all your scenes and you've got your scenes ready, you can actually just start recording. And when you start recording, you are then recording your video. And then you can go through the whole process of discussing my introduction. Today, we're going to be looking at a specific lesson, and we go right through the whole process. Going through my browser, I've got my lesson planned, and everything is ready for OBS. So one of the things that I'd like to point out is when you're using OBS and you want to make your videos and you want to make your videos available for your students, first plan it out. So maybe just use a piece of paper and think about what exactly do I want my students to know and what exactly do I want to show them in my videos. You could start off with your introduction, then you can maybe have notes from your class notes. You can add that onto the video. You can have it in the background. They can see it. They can even see yourself. My advice is to actually have yourself on camera as well, because it's personal. It's they can see your face rather than just having a PowerPoint presentation where you're talking over it, and that can be a little bit boring. But when they see your face and they see your reaction, and as you're talking about experiments or talking about your course material, they can see it and they can actually appreciate it a lot more. And then obviously with the scenes, you can then customize that for your lesson. What exactly do you need? Maybe you need a YouTube video where you're doing chemistry. You've got a little YouTube video or material that you've prepared before, even your own videos, that you can actually also add in. And you can run that. You can have narration over it, you can talk over it, and add a lot more to your material. So this is just a basic introduction to OBS. And there's a lot more to learn about OBS. As you'll notice, we've only covered probably a fraction of what we can do with OBS. Our filters, they are different ways of recording. There's even the virtual camera. There's the studio mode where you can almost run it as if it's a television studio and you're actually having content, and you can swap between material. I hope that you enjoyed this first introduction to OBS. And please, if you have any questions, send me an email. Yeah, look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.